Welcome back. You're still watching Newsnight. And for more discussions on the Lagos building collapse and government's intervention, let's bring in the Lagos State Commissioner for Information and Strategy, Gbenga Omotoso. Mr. Gbenga, thank you so much for joining us on Newsnight. The world is watching what happens at this collapse site in the Ikoyi area of Lagos, even though we know another building has collapsed in the Osakpa area of the state earlier today. But let me ask you particularly about the 21-story building that collapsed in Ikoyi. There were safety concerns with this building, and it was indeed sealed off for months. Mr. Gbenga Omotoso, can you tell us why it was reopened?
Well, it was, first let me just say that we sympathize with the people who lost their loved ones in this incident. And we continue the battle to save more lives and bring out as many people as possible. And now coming specifically to your question, why it was reopened. The building was sealed, I think at about June 20 last year. And then it was reopened after the promoters said they were going to make some restitution and rework some of the things that were bad there. And they were asked to go back and rework all those things and report back to the ministry, the building control agency, for them to be able to certify them fit to continue with the work. But I learned that they never reported back and that the ministry went back there. And when they were working there, you actually see that there was no work going on there. But what was going on there was that they were just doing the gate. And it was the gate that they were doing when all of this happened. It's that rectification that they were asked to make that they were making. And they were supposed to report back to the ministry and the ministry will now look at what they have done before giving them a clean bill of health for them to go back to construction. But I think they never did that.
Gbenga, it's interesting to note that a structural consultant pulled out of this building, and yet the building continued. That's one. Two, there's talk about 15-story, 21-story. Clarify us on that, and the fact that the structural consultant left the building, I think when it was about third floor or fourth floor, and then it still continued.
Well, I do not know the details of how the structural engineer left, what led to that, and what did not lead to that, and now the building collapsed. But you know, when this kind of thing happens in our environment, all manner of people become experts and they start to speculate, they start to permutate and be giving us all sort of amateurish prognostications about what happened and what did not happen. So I will not know how the structural engineer left and now the whole thing became what it has become that we are now seeing now. But all I know is that they didn't have the approval to return to the site and continue to build. They didn't have that at all. And they may have done that. If they were doing it, they may have done that illegally. But the main thing that is clear now is that the governor, Mr. Baide Sanwo-Olu...
All right, Gbenga, I hope you've not forgotten the second part of this question, which is the talk about approval for a 15-story, then later now 21-story. You'd like to clarify us on that?
Yeah, the deputy governor actually did that this afternoon to say that they got approval for 21 floors and not 15.
I spoke to an engineer who was asking the question, at what point did that reversal come? Was it an initial 15-story building, or it got an approval after it had started building already to become 21? But that's not my question, because Lagos is no stranger to these disasters. What seems to be the challenge for the Lagos state government in stopping this from recurring? Why can't we prevent this? How do these builders and these developers get away with putting up structures of mass destruction all the time? What's the problem?
Well, I would not want to say what the problem is because I'm not an expert in this area. I'm not a structural engineer. But all I know is that before you rent any building in Lagos State, you must have a permit. And if you don't have a permit, the physical planning people, they go there to seal up such buildings. And there are so many of them that I have seen that have been sealed up, and people coming to rectify whatever the problem is. I do not believe that we can say that building collapse is something that is so common and that is something that we are seeing all of the time and where the buildings are going down. Only structural engineers can say that. And that is what the governor has a team of experts to do in this particular case. They have set up an investigation panel that is independent, comprising the Nigerian Institution of Structural Engineers, Nigerian Society of Engineers, and all other professional bodies to go and look into this matter to see what has happened. And now we can prevent this kind of thing from occurring again.
Yeah, you've talked about what I wanted to talk about, the fact that the panels have been set up, the investigative panel set up, okay, the LAB-SCA MD sacked. Is this not what you call after the fact reaction? And what do we do when these investigative panels bring up what they have found out? Do we eventually use it to prevent this thing from occurring again?
Or reaction, I mean, that is what is done all over the world. When you have this kind of thing and you want experts to look at it so that you can prevent it from occurring again, you gather a team of experts to go and look into it. And then the aim is to see that if anybody is indicted, the person should face the law. And that is what the governor has said, that whoever is found to have been culpable in this particular instance is going to face the law. In actual fact, the agency that is responsible for checking this kind of thing, the head of the agency is now on an indefinite suspension. And like I said, an independent panel of experts who are in the built industry have been asked to look into this thing and find out what happened so that we can prevent this kind of thing. So it is not for anybody to just feel that well, it is being done for fun or just as a matter of routine. It is the world best practice when you have this kind of incident.
Mr. Gbenga Omotoso, Commissioner for Information and Strategy for Lagos State, just to note that there have been 2 building collapses in the space of 24 hours or 48 hours. That is common. But thank you so much for being on Newsnight tonight.